And the next is a VOCC response to the MDOT letter.
Yes, I'm sure the commissioners are aware of a letter that was received. It was submitted to Commissioner President Kelly, dated August 23rd, 2013. There were some responses that were placed through the media from members of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm requesting for consideration that the county, on its behalf, would submit a letter in response, and I've drafted a letter. My request today is that the commissioners consider this letter as is drafted. If there's a proposal designating potentially different language, I would be more than prepared to rescind this as a potential letter to be considered. The letter was drafted in the spirit of recognizing that we, as a board, have not first and foremost made a decision on the comprehensive plan, but in fact it is addressing some of the misperceptions that were in the actual letter from August 23rd, and it's in the spirit of recognizing that the tour meeting is set forth, and the county is more than open to the idea of discussing all these matters with the Secretary Smith.
Commissioner Robinson?
As Commissioner Collins mentioned, there was reaction from, I think, 4 of us in a media story in the Maryland Independent, which in itself indicated that we're not going to reach agreement on the perception as to what was stated in the letter from Secretary Smith. And just looking at your second paragraph here in your proposed letter, I could not sign something like this. So I'm suggesting that anybody who has an issue with Secretary Smith's letter respond as an individual commissioner.
Can I ask a question? I know that we have a consultant that helps us negotiate through these issues with our state relationships and has been very involved in this transportation issue. Would there be any value into consulting with him prior to sending anything or approving anything? And obviously this is an agenda request where we would have our letter and be able to come back next week prepared to discuss it. I'm assuming you feel this is worthy of a one-week
because the letter is dated August 23rd, and so I would consider it a matter that deems immediate attention by the board.
Well, he says that MDOT would be happy to discuss this further. It really doesn't strike me as a letter that invites a letter response. It's almost like
I would only suggest that you read the letter and read the spirit of the letter.
We put it on is your question then, or is your motion?
And as I stated, I am requesting an open, an up or down response and vote on this request.
Do you want to is your motion for this agenda request to do it today as an emergency or for next week on the agenda? It's an agenda request.
It's an agenda request, and I wanted to go through the formal request to place this before the entire board because, again, I believe a letter of this magnitude certainly warrants a response from the Board of County Commissioners. And I also understand the politics involved in the fact that the Board of Commissioners are not, in fact, exactly on the same page. But I think this letter, an attempt to address this, is a very respectful letter, and it certainly puts in consideration the fact that although we are not entirely on the same page with this, I deem it necessary for us to respond. Well, and I'm not close to the idea of going through the mediator or anything else if that's necessary.
Well, Commissioner Davis, let me just make sure. Let's get a clear understanding. We have an agenda request on the table. And this letter is associated with that agenda request.
No, let me attempt to make it a little smoother. I went through the agenda request process because I wanted this submitted for the board's consideration and approval. So I guess to attempt to make this motion tighter, I am requesting as a board that this letter be typed up, drafted, and submitted through staff and sent to the Secretary Maryland's Department of Transportation.
Okay.
And because I believe it's of immediate concern and attention because the letter was dated August 23rd, I'm requesting that staff begin this process immediately.
Okay, so I want to be clear, and then Commissioner Davis is next. The agenda request is off the table. You have come in and made a motion that the board approve this letter to be drafted and sent to the secretary.
Unless there's another means to make this request in front of the entire board and part of our public process.
Okay, well, let's stick with one thing at a time here. So right now we've got a letter and there's a motion to approve it and send it. Commissioner Davis, I know you had asked.
Yes,
like you wanted to
I
say
too
something.
see the need for it to be an emergency on the emergency agenda. I do think that a response was probably warranted a week ago. So I too feel that there needs to be a response, and there should have been one quicker, but this is the first time we were able to get together. So I'm looking over this. I think it's pretty factual. I guess that's the last comment I'd like to make, but before I make a motion to move this forward.
Okay.
I'm a little confused because this started as an agenda request, and I thought this was going to be to discuss the letter from the Maryland Department of Transportation Secretary, which I would be very open to having next week or 2 weeks, whenever. It is morphed into this letter, which I'm still not 100% sure. Are you asking for approval of this letter? Is this a draft of a letter? Is this something that can evolve between now and next week? So I'm a little confused of where we're at with this letter.
I started a conversation by stating that I was requesting an up and down vote on the letter that I drafted, and I presented copies before the
Okay.
So then I think
Board of
we need a
County
couple of
Commissioners.
minutes to
Could
read the whole
letter.
letter.
And that's how I
Okay.
started by
So-
suggesting that you read the letter.
Okay. Now, I do want to say that we're going to need a few minutes. I'll just leave it at that. I'm a slow reader. Does
Anybody have a
everyone
copy of
have
the
a-
first letter?
Yeah, I was just going to say I have it right here. We probably, yeah. I don't know. Does everyone have a copy of the first letter that needs one?
You want to take a 5-minute break? I'm going to go.
Yeah,
I got to soak it all in my head.
Yeah, let's take a little break. If anybody wants to leave, anybody wants to go to... Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll begin. We were discussing Commissioner Collins' proposed letter to be sent to the Secretary of Transportation, Secretary James Smith. I'm not exactly sure how to proceed. We all just received this letter, and so how would you like to handle this, Commissioner Collins?
I would like the board to, or I'm moving for an up and down vote on this proposed letter.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve this letter? Is there a second?
The second to ask a question?
For discussion.
Second. Can you, I'm asking County Attorney, can you tell me the facts in this letter?
I'm sorry.
The facts in this letter versus the Secretary's letter. I mean, it's his opinions, and then all these facts in Commissioner Collins' letter, are they consistent? Did you read both letters?
I'm not in a position to say that right now.
Is there any legal reason why we couldn't respond
Oh, no,
to this letter? Thank you.
No.
Can you read the letter and give us your opinion?
I would have to do some research.
Yeah, there's several things
I
stated
could
in
certainly do that, but I would have to come back to you.
Well, I would like to weigh in, since we're having discussion. Commissioner Collins starts by suggesting that the secretaries, and I'm going to have to get my letter back from Commissioner Ritchie, thank you, is inaccurate.
that he has some misconceptions.
And I would say that,
I use the term misconceptions.
okay.
We question the accuracy of your statement.
Yeah,
is
I mean,
the
that's
second, is the
accuracy
beginning of
is
the
what I
second
said.
paragraph.
It says, first and foremost, we question the accuracy of your statements. And, you know, I think that the statements that have been made are pretty consistent with everything we've seen probably since 2011 when Plan Maryland first was introduced. In the first paragraph alone, the statement in this letter says that the development and large lot development in conservation areas outside of the existing development district, it says, you know, speaks to that. It says, then that is where it says this statement misrepresents the proposed plan. Well, I have read the proposed plan, and I do not feel that it misrepresents it at all. In fact, specifically, when you look at the proposed comprehensive plan, particularly in the context of the Senate Bill 236, we absolutely are inconsistent. You mentioned Tier 3. Tier 3 of the Senate Bill 236 makes it very clear that areas planned for zoned are for large lot. 1 acre and 3 acres to 1 unit is not large lot under any definition. And I know we don't need to go through every single word of this because you asked for a vote up or down. But, you know, when you just look at our annual report, when we're measuring our own progress for 2012, okay, we're against where we should be. I mean, it's horrendous. You know, we're not even meeting our own goals under this pitiful 2006 plan. So, you know, I have to say that I really feel put upon to get a letter of this magnitude and have so little time to work through it. I think from what I have read already with the Senate Bill 236 as well as the comprehensive plan. I mean, the comprehensive plan, it's very simple. The words are beautiful. It sounds so lovely. It's just a beautiful, beautiful set of prose. And then you get to the map, and you cannot deny that it's totally inconsistent with Plan Maryland, with Senate Bill 236, and with everything that smart growth stands for. You cannot take your whole county and put it on 1 unit for 3 acres. You just can't do that and then expect it to be smart growth and that you're going to get transportation funding. And so I think the letter is, as my mother would say, cheeky. It's disrespectful. He did not ask us for a response. It's sort of like when SMECO sends you the notice that they're going to disconnect. They really don't want you to write back. They want you to pay your bill. And so that's my position. Commissioner Robbins?
I'll be a lot briefer. A couple of things. Number one, the letter defends a plan that we have not voted on, first of all, and that I find troubling. And second of all, I honestly, and this is just an opinion, as this letter is, sending this letter will do more harm than good. We have already, prior to hearing from the Secretary of Transportation as well as the Secretary of Planning, we got a multi-agency letter several months ago that included federal agencies, and we have not heard the last from federal agencies either. And I just think that sitting down and having a discussion with the state would be a better route to take than to send this letter.
I'd like to weigh in if I can.
Commissioner Davis?
I didn't come here prepared to talk about the comp plan. I have looked at it. I believe that there's a bigger issue here, and I've said it from the beginning. and that land use is local. It is our responsibility to our citizens to represent our taxpayers and give them the voice that they need at this local level. And I do, and my letter would have been a little stronger because I would have simply wrote on the sticky that land use is local, mind your business. It's our job at this level to protect our taxpayers' rights and our citizens. And somehow the state has this notion that they can push us around. This is a state, and I believe that we owe it to our citizens to stand firm and to protect whatever we decide at this local level, whatever differences we have on this plan, whatever differences we have, it's local, and it's our local differences. And it's not the state's right, it's a local right, and the state can impose all the rules that they want and make all the threats that they want, but it is still our right, and I hope it's always local. I hope we always keep it local, and to allow them to dictate to us I feel really strongly about it. To allow them to dictate us is to lobby away our citizens' rights, and I won't stand by and let it happen. I get to finish making my comment. So I don't think that it's about the letter, the content of the letter, as much as it is that the state doesn't get to respond to a comp plan that we haven't even voted on, as Commissioner Robinson said. They don't get to jump in and weigh in on a plan we haven't even voted on. That is so disrespectful. And I'll stand by it. And now I'm finished.
Well, and I would just say that any time this county wants to dig in their heels and say, we're not going to listen to the state, we don't have to put up with this, we can tell them to keep the school construction money. We can tell them to keep the over 50% that they pay toward our school operations. We can tell them to keep all those grants that they give us for emergency services and our Charles County Sheriff's Office and everything else they give us. I mean, to suggest that the state is somehow trying to, dictate to this county. The bottom line is we are a state, okay? We are part of a state, and every other county seems to be able to get this right.
Not
and
every
I will
other
tell
county,
you,
Candace,
well,
you know
pretty
it.
much now they are.
You know it.
And let me just say this, that when you talk about our citizens' rights, if this comprehensive plan was written in such a way that it ensured that growth was going to take place in a way that our citizens, particularly all of our young families, would thrive. Number one, adequate school allocations and seats available when their children get to school. Number two, emergency response in a timely manner, and considering that we rely on volunteers. Number three, the increased police service when you have to patrol roads all the way down to, the end of the county. This plan calls for development to take place under the guise of rural residential, with one house on 3 acres pretty much all over this county except where there is land in conservation. Now call it not wanting to be dictated to if that's what you want. But what this says to me is that this board is going to argue the point that we have a plan that has nothing to do with smart growth, and we're trying to dress it up and pretend that it is. You look at the plan, you look at the inside, the wording, you look at the back, and then you look at the map, and that's all you have to see. And so, I just can't imagine that we'd send something like this. Okay.
Bobby, were you going to say something?
I don't have a problem with the letter. His letter, I got kind of offensive when he sent the letter down to us. And after hearing everybody talk, it's not a bad response back to him. We're not saying nothing bad back. We're just giving our opinion back to him. And I don't have a problem with it. Smart growth is everybody's opinion. I moved to Charles County with 1 to 3 acres. Smart growth is great, but then we're going to have a big city too. It's everybody's opinion what they want. Smart growth, you got more crime, one area. A lot of people don't know that.
But it's not about opinion. It's about what the law has put in place. Let's just give you an example. In 2012, the county did not meet its target goal of 75% of the total final plat lots being located in the development district.
Well, read further.
Well,
read why. It also describes why it did.
But the point is, we're not doing
But that's
it.
an important point.
Well, the point is that we are developing outside of the development
but
district.
Candace, you can't just throw something out there like that.
Well, then I will read it.
But my problem is that
Again, in
anybody
the implementation of the recent Sustainable Growth and Agricultural Presentation Act could potentially explain this anomaly. An analysis of the final plat lots inside the development district demonstrates that the county is generally consistent, but it's not where it should be. And that's the point, and it's only going to get worse
That's
if
one
we
person's
don't.
opinion who does not live in our county. Can we have
This
a
is
vote?
your planning commission's
Can we
opinion.
have a vote?
Deborah, you're out of order. This is your planning commission's annual report. And,
Because I,
You ready? You wanna
because
vote?
I did. Let me just kind of finalize. I believe, as a board, we will have ample opportunity to argue about the merits of the comprehensive plan and what is best for our citizens. I mean, I actually think it's a very healthy discussion to address these issues. My closing comment was the purpose of this letter was not to get into the details.
But it
of the
does get into the
comprehensive plan.
details.
I was only asserting where I believe there was misperceptions on the part of the secretary, and I was only requesting that he reconsider how he was reviewing that. And I think I did it in a very respectful way. And again, I just want to close by saying we will have ample opportunity to argue over the merits of our future land use planning.
it says, what the proposed plan does not do and what prior boards of Charles County Commissioners have declined to do is confiscate the value of rural land by downzoning it in the name of conserving it. That's an opinion. And that is an opinion that there is no way that I would sign my name to this letter.
Commissioner Kelly, I think it's pretty clear after the 20 minutes of debate here how this is going to go.
Well,
so why don't we
that's
just
true.
have the vote? We have all expressed our opinions, and I would, we can continue for another hour. I could disagree with Commissioner Davis's assessment that the state is dictating to us, which I would agree with strongly because we cannot achieve almost anything without partnering with the state. But
It is
I
what it
suggest
is.
we take it to the vote.
And I will be happy to call the vote. I just have to say that this is a very irresponsible and reckless act, and $25 million just to scratch the surface is at stake. So we have a motion and a second, I believe. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. And again, I would expect that we are not required to sign this letter. Just the three of you all will sign
It's a
it.
vote of the board if you...
Well, I will not sign this letter. It's unbelievable. It's so irresponsible. I can't
it's
imagine
done.
it. No, and I'm not finished. Okay, next we have the briefing on the Maryland Airport land.